Good morning. This is case D388292, Dodds versus Dodds, set today for a status check on the child support arrearages, medical insurance arrearages, and I also want to know what's going on with both Ethan and Nixon's reunification therapist, whether you got one or not. Counsel, kindly your appearances for the record.
Good morning, Your Honor. Amber Robinson, bar number 10731, on behalf of plaintiff Eric Dodds, who's present.
Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Judge Frank Today, bar number 5804, here with the defendant.
Good morning and welcome. So I saw you filed the schedule of arrears. I presumed that you did that based on what Mom provided you. Is that correct?
No, these schedules of arrears were done on from the August 21st, 2014 order.
The March 3rd? I have March 3rd schedules.
Right.
Arrears.
So yeah, so they were dated back though to the controlling order on child support.
But the order was Mom was to provide you all of her information about her income so that you could do these schedules.
Right, but my understanding was there has been never any motion to change the child support order. So I don't understand why we would go back 2 years.
But aren't we doing something retroactive during a time when she wasn't paying? I thought it was during a time that there wasn't.
No, the August 21st, 2014 order, Your Honor. This is when Kayla was still a minor. Mom had primary, so my client had a child support order to her. Jen had a child support order to Eric for Ethan and Nixon. So at that time, we figured out what the child support for Mom was. So for that period of the next year until September 2015, Jen technically, because of Eric's payment to her, she didn't technically owe anything. It was like $33.
Yeah,
it was nominal. So that is when her arrears kicked in, is because when she actually had to start paying, she has paid nothing.
Okay, so the amount of that you don't think is at issue, but you said you don't agree with her income.
We think she's making more now than she was at that time.
So you just wanted to know going forward, you didn't need her to disclose all her income from the past?
No.
So that order is vacated. So you just knew I was saying the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you can always tell me that.
Sorry, I guess I was confused.
That's all right. So are you guys okay with this, Frank?
Judge, we have offsets. Mom has made, it looks like about $320 to payments to the child support division. There were some offsets by way of, I think, the report from Ponzo, I believe, that was supposed to be paid. Percentages by the party. My client paid for the Ponzo report in its entirety, so there'd be an offset for that. So that's what we would need to look at as far as that goes. But
How much was that?
You paid?
I paid Ponzo on my own, so I don't know what they're referencing.
Oh, Mom didn't pay?
Mom is indicating that it was about a $450 report, and it was an order of a 75-25 split to
Oh, her part was $450.
My client always, though, paid Mr.
Yeah.
Ponzo directly.
Okay. Well, fair enough. That's just, and what I would say, judges, is that we've got these numbers.
Well, he waived child support during a particular period of time.
Yeah, that
You
was...
didn't include that in here, did you?
No. These are strictly from August 21st, 2014 forward. That's the first time in this entire case that my client has said, okay, I finally want child support. He's always waived and waived and waived over the years.
But his child support was waived as of the 9/30/15 order.
Your Honor.
His child support to defendant, because Michaela graduated and emancipated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So you guys must know this better than me. So tell me where
Well,
we're
you
at.
have like
September
2,000
15
cases.
forward. So September 15 forward is the child support. We've got these numbers. Like I said, my client thinks that there's some offsets. I think now that the numbers can be crunched. We also had some questions regarding the medical insurance back a little while ago. We've got the current one, and I just needed to confirm that it's been that amount all the time, or if there's been.
Usually it changes, so
That's what I would say.
sometimes almost every year.
So the financial aspect of it, Judge, I think we can get around it, and then quite obviously what I will do with Ms. Robinson is I will provide her with an FDF. Well, I think we've got the most recent FDF, and if she's not willing to abide by that, then we will file a motion to modify child support, but hopefully we can work that out without having to file a motion. But, Judge, to your second part of your question,
About the reunification.
nothing's happened since the last time we were all here. Now, the way I and my client...
No provider list was provided to Mom.
She obtained one, and she reached out to the only therapist on the list that was willing to take on the case. And my client, as a result of the fact that there was this only one therapist that was willing to do it, she made an appointment. Okay? However, plaintiff's indication was that this is still something that's being thought about and discussed, and no decisions have been made, so we just...
That's not
wait.
true.
That's what we thought.
No, that's not true. That's not what the order says. Well, it wasn't reduced to an order, but the minutes were available. Basically, it says, plaintiff will provide defendant with his provider list and let her make calls to find the therapist, and the minor child will be the patient. And Dad will also provide a list of the things that he wants to see happen, positive things he wants defendant to focus on during the reunification. And Mom was to have activities planned for Ethan, the tiers that we had set up for Ethan. I mean, this is all set up to go.
In regards to the reunification specialist, Your Honor, how that went down was, I don't know what all Jennifer did on her end, but what she communicated to my client was, oh, by the way, that this was like maybe a Friday, it was some couple of days' notice, you and Nixon have an appointment Tuesday at 3 o'clock. My client did speak to that person, and what his conversation with her was, I don't typically do this kind of stuff. I work in the criminal courts. This kind of sounds outside of my scope.
Oh.
She said she knows you, Your Honor. I don't remember the
What was the person's name?
Marsha Lee.
Oh, I know Marsha.
So then my client, trying to be proactive, called Nick Ponzo saying, hey, can you send over a list of people, maybe more east side, that would actually do reunification, because the person I spoke to sounds like that they can't or don't want to do it. So we have that list of names, and that's Katie Steinkamp, that's Mark Chambers, that is Bree Mullins, and...
But that's not what Your Honor ordered.
I was trying to do it so that it'd be less money for you guys.
I'm aware, and that's what we did.
But if we have somebody that...
How is it that the plaintiff unilaterally decided that this counselor isn't qualified? How did that occur? I've never had that conversation with anybody.
Did Marsha say it to you?
Yes, she did, Your Honor.
She doesn't want to do it?
She made it seem like this might be out of the scope of her area, and that she was going to still meet with the defendant and then get back to me and see if it made sense. She wanted to meet with
She's a marriage and family therapist, okay? When you are a marriage and family therapist, it's a 68-unit master's. It's not like a 30-unit master's. It takes a lot, and it's 2,000 or 3,000 hours or something, I can't even remember, to get your license. I mean, it requires a lot, and a lot of every year, 20-something units you have to take. So it's not like she can't work with families regarding the same issues and emotions that are involved in reunification. So she is probably qualified. She just has never structured something like this before.
Your Honor, I would just ask that, and this to me is an example of the inability of the defendant to co-parent. I get an email 2 days before. You even said the last time we were here you don't want it to affect the boys' schedules. Her scheduling at 3 o'clock takes nothing into account of the boys having to drive across town. You know, I don't know if she's driven on the 95 at that time of day, but traffic is horrendous. There's no way that getting out at 2 o'clock, having to pick up an infant from daycare, and then trying to drop the other child off there, the timing of it wouldn't work. And there was just no counseling. It was like, here it is, here's it's scheduled, and that was not my impression when we left here, is that we were going to co-parent and maybe get a chance to talk with a therapist and see, is this the right person or not? And it's just, again, an example of Jen taking a small little bit and running with it and saying, you know, here's how it's going to be. And I don't feel like it's co-parenting. I didn't feel like it was co-parenting. So I called the lady, and again, she can reference, she knows you, and she said clearly to me She's just not really sure this is something she can take on, but she'll meet with the defendant. And I've heard nothing since that time.
And that was never communicated to me. And the whole reason Your Honor put the burden on my client to find a therapist is because last time we were here, plaintiff said he was simply too busy to call all of these therapists and try to schedule something. So Your Honor said, okay, Mom, this is on you. You take care of it. Now, at no point did plaintiff at that time say, hold it, that's going to violate co-parenting ideas. It's not what happened. My client called every therapist on the list. This one therapist said she could do it. So there's no choosing. It's not like we narrowed it down to 3 and said pick one, because there weren't 3. There was one. This one said she was willing to do it. She said, here's my next appointment. Jen emailed to Dad and said, this is the next appointment. There wasn't anything beyond that. It wasn't, hold it, that doesn't quite work for me, let's figure something out. It was just resistance, this is wrong, this is a violation, and we're not doing anything. That was the response.
Was there a way you could have called them and said, hey, they have an appointment at 3 o'clock on this day. Are you available? Can you make it at that time?
That is what my email said, Your Honor, on our family wizard. It was
So you were just saying, hey, can you make it at that
Yeah,
time?
and I actually found one that's actually on his side of town. Because that was another problem that the plaintiff had, and so I made sure it was not even on my side of town. And it was at 3 o'clock, and Nixon gets out of school around 2:05.
So you felt like that was good timing.
Yeah, and Marsha Lee told me that the conversation had was that I didn't have legal custody, is what the plaintiff expressed to her, and said that he would not be bringing Nixon to the appointment.
I can't hear you. He would not what?
Bring Nixon to the appointment. He had sole legal custody, and I don't have legal custody, so I didn't have a right to make an appointment.
Not what I said, Your Honor. And the Our Family Wizard, this is, and I appreciate Mr. Tody's emotions here in the case, but in actuality, there was communication back to his client that said, we can't make that meeting. So he's saying there was no communication when there was. I can't help it if his client is not communicating with him. So there was communication, and that's not what her email said. It said the date is set, this is when it is. It's not like, can you make it or anything like that. It was the date is set, and this is when it's going to be.
It seems like there's resistance to reunification.
Not at all, Your Honor. I just think we should. I just think we should have someone who is 100% qualified and willing to do it. And I sense trepidation in Marsha Lee and her willingness to do it. Yeah, I clarified the position of the court and where things are at, and I had
You want to pay 75% and Mom pay 25%?
well.
No.
Because I can pick somebody who's 100% qualified that does these things on the court list, but then you won't be able to use your insurance.
All we were saying is this is what was communicated to him by Marcia. He's not saying he's not taking the kids to Marcia. He's just saying, I've heard no communication back after Marcia said, I'll meet with Mom and I'll get back to you. So we don't know if Mom has met with Marcia and Marcia hasn't communicated back to Eric.
Did she meet with you, Mom?
No, we canceled the appointment, but she said she'd leave a standing open appointment for today. And
Why did you cancel the appointment?
Because Dad said he wouldn't bring the child.
and they were saying
She told you that? Marcia said Dad said he wouldn't bring the child?
right, because I didn't have any legal custody, and then the email said that from the plaintiff in Our Family Wizard that I can go ahead and attend by myself, but I better not use his insurance or Social Security because it's fraud. I don't know. But that was her first appointment that was available, and so I just went ahead and said okay, and I believe I emailed him. The appointment was set for, I think, a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and I think I emailed him on Friday, just letting him know that I had found this person, and it did. It took about 2 days.
This is what I think should happen. If Marcia feels she can do it, really it's just about dealing with the feelings of the people and structuring sessions and working with people's feelings and what's happened in the past and trying to clear up things and process things and how is it going to be in the future. You know, you talk about boundaries and things like that. She knows about all these things. I mean, these are things that we all learned. So it's not like she won't recognize that in the therapy session. So if she's comfortable doing it, then I think you should do it with her. She's on the right side of town, and it sounds like she has times that are after school, and it seems like it would work out. If you don't want to do that, then I want to give you a backup order for somebody off the court list because I want this done. I don't want to have another hearing in this case where I see you guys and it is not happening, not at all.
Well, and we're not done yet, Judge.
I'm just looking for the list.
I understand. I'm just saying that the order with regards to the other child also hasn't come through yet. Because we were,
I set it up
I
already.
know, we weren't able to agree upon a third-party supervisor.
Your Honor, so I have communicated to Mr. Toady on that issue
But we
that,
already talked about that.
I know.
Your Honor, what happened that day was that was very fast, and at the end of the hearing, Mom all of a sudden says, I have this third party. That caught my client off guard. This is a former employee of his, a former babysitter, and this employee was fired by Eric. And so what you had indicated at the last hearing, Your Honor.
But we asked him and he said that was okay.
No, I didn't, Your Honor. I didn't say it was okay. I didn't even. It was very fast when it happened, and I told Amber, I said, I don't think this is a good person. I said she was fired. I don't know that she's right.
Let's watch that hearing, that part of that hearing, because I don't think that's what happened. I wouldn't have gone with it if you didn't indicate that you were okay with it.
I thought, Your Honor, that you had said that we need to agree to that third-party person, that was someone that was thrown out there, but that we never said that was the person we were going to go with, Your Honor.
Right, so my client came up with some alternative suggestions. I never heard back from their side on those alternative suggestions. And so we're okay with just letting the reunification specialist handle both children.
How long has Mom been clean now?
I never had a problem. I always
Oh,
passed
sorry.
all my tests. I've had 3 tests.
Right, Bree Mullen indicated in her report that she didn't take a test one time, I think it was.
She delayed it. Was over-urinating.
So we don't...
When's your clean date, Mom, originally?
Original clean date, the first time I ever took a drug test for the court was in probably 2010, 11, when we first started coming to court. And then for Bree Mullen, I took one for you in court, and then when I went to Bree Mullen 6 months later, I did another one. They were all clean.
Your Honor,
Don't use drugs.
on page 21 of 24 of the report, Bree says, of concern were the results of Jennifer's 2015-2016 drug and alcohol screenings. In October 2015, Jennifer tested positive for Xanax, which was to be expected based on her prescription for the medication. However, in April 2016, her results were dilute. Hence, no results could be determined. In May 2016, Jennifer was asked to present for drug and alcohol screening first thing in the morning. However, the results of the test indicated the sample was collected at 1:12 p.m. Additionally, the results of the test were negative. Were negative for, I don't know how to say that word, benzos.
Benzodiazepine.
This was unexpected, as Jennifer acknowledged taking her prescription medication, Ativan, benzodiazepine, twice per day, including the morning of the May 2016 test. The peak concentration of Ativan in blood plasma is 2 hours following administration, yet the mean half-life of plasma is 12 hours. Hence, it would be expected that the medication would have been detected in the drug screening. When asked about these results, Jennifer reported that she did not know the reasons for the negative results. So it seems like she was trying to get something else out of her system.
I mean, I don't see there to be a reason why this should be delayed anymore. I really don't. I mean, we just need to go forward with this. And I do understand that Dad wants it to be done properly, and the court wants it to be done properly too. I'm just trying to limit the amount of money. I know you're paying these people, and you're paying, you paid Ponzo, and then if we hire someone else off the list, you're going to pay that person. But honestly, I'm not going to keep having these kinds of hearings where there is no one taking a look at these children with their mother. I mean, this is ridiculous to me that it's taken this long.
Well, Your Honor, we have sat down together as a foursome. I've sent letters, I've sent emails. I asked to meet with them before the last hearing. It's not.
In 5 months, it'll have been a year since we got this report. I mean,
Judge, and I appreciate counsel's comments, but again, what brought us to court finally last time was the schedule that they proposed, which was very draconian with regards to leveling up and things of that nature. And we had the long conversation last time we were here in court, and Your Honor said, no, this is how it's going to work, and Your Honor laid the whole thing out. Unfortunately, we haven't moved since that day. That's the problem. Not in regard to either child.
Well, my takeaway specifically with Jackie was, if you are not okay with Jackie, let them know, which we did. And I even suggested that Jen maybe come up with some alternative solutions as a supervisor, which she did not. And so we have been okay with the reunification specialist, which that has been communicated.
okay, hold on a second. When I recall now at the hearing that it didn't seem like for Ethan that it was going to take much of any time at all, and that Ethan was going to be able to say, I don't need a supervisor after 1 or 2 times if he didn't feel like he needed one.
Right.
So why can't it be somebody like that employee? I mean, what is wrong with the employee?
Level of trust.
That they will do what?
Your Honor, their suggestion after one of the settlement meetings, or what they were looking for, was to have the reunification therapist handle Ethan. So if that ends up being 2 or 3 visits, then why wouldn't we just do that if that was their idea? If we can't agree to this
Do
random
you
third
go to the
party-
same hearings that I'm going to? Because I have orders from the last hearing that to me are very, very clear. I knew you guys were in a stuck place last time, so I made orders that gave you pathways exactly what to do, who was to do what, and when things should happen. There's no doubt. I could read this through and you would know exactly what to do. And none of this stuff has taken place, except for Mom did find a therapist. She wasn't able to pick 3. She could only pick 1 because only 1 would be willing to do it. But I'm just saying, there's no question that this was supposed to take place. None.
Your Honor, I do have communication also from her that says there is another therapist, but they can't see until April or something. And that then the next communication I heard was this one on Tuesday of last week. So I don't know, Your Honor. I feel like the main crux of this whole thing, which is why we're here, is getting overlooked, and that it's now being, I'm not following things when for the past few years the defendant hasn't followed anything, and I've taken time out of my day to do settlement meetings. I've taken time out of my day to do this. I've told Amber, I said, if they're not willing to settle, then let's go to trial if that's what it takes. I would like to settle. I've tried to work on it, and we hear nothing from them. And so I'm just a bit frustrated
What do you
with
mean you want to settle for what?
get everything
She
on.
needs to be reunified.
And that would be part of it, Your Honor, wouldn't it be? But we need to get all this stuff on paper. I need to have. Don't you
Once
think?
they're reunified, we'll see what kind of contact they want to have.
Right.
We're talking about 13 and 12-year-old kids.
Right.
We're not talking about babies or toddlers or young school-aged kids.
Oh, it's not the children, Your Honor, I'm worried about. It's the defendant and her abilities to manipulate. And why wouldn't it be to have some reassurances on paper of what is supposed to be done? I don't understand why that's such a big sticking point that we take all these times to settle and talk and come here, and why aren't we getting this on paper and getting it done and moving on it? That's been and we hear
Well,
nothing from them.
One of the other things I asked you to do was for you to decide or you guys to decide, counsel will discuss obtaining a letter from defendant's therapist which does not violate her privilege, indicating whether she's compliant with her treatment and taking her medication as prescribed. That was part of the idea of being able to follow her and know that she was, take a temperature check and see if she's being compliant with her treatment recommendations and doing well.
And that's the other thing, Your Honor, and I just rewatched the August 23rd, 2016 hearing this morning. We were adamant about a psychiatrist working with a therapist, and we brought this up at the last hearing, that Mom is working with a general practitioner. We don't think that that's appropriate, and we don't...
As a therapist and a general practitioner, she needs to have either she needs to have a psychiatrist that she sees, I mean, at least every 6 months or something like that. Her general practitioner can give her the medicine if she wants, because it's probably less money, but that she does need to see someone who's a professional psychiatrist who can read this and determine, if there's any changes. I mean, the person that you're seeing is an MFT or LCSW.
My therapist is an MFT, and my doctor is a DOO. He actually works with state mental health patients and overseas, and my therapist and him both work together congruently.
I don't know.
But the DOO is not really qualified to give you mental health medicine generally. They can give you stuff temporarily, but the MFT could be qualified to give you a diagnosis that could be taken to the DOO and say, what do people take for this? And they can look it up and give it to you. But you need to have an overseeing doctor, a psychiatrist, who can be in charge of whether your meds are going to be changed, whether you're going to stay consistent on these, or if you're going to taper off, or you need more for some reason. That is the person. You don't have to go to that person all the time, but you should have that person in your wheelhouse. Do you see what I'm saying? So please get one. What side of town are you on?
Summerlin.
And you have your own health insurance?
Yeah.
So you can look at your thing and see if there's somebody good on there. Are you doing your medical evaluations on your thyroid functioning?
Yeah, I do them once a year, no matter what. I've been seeing the same doctor for 4 years, and
I think she's doing a good job, honestly. I think that this is getting way too much attention on looking at her as being an under-functioning human. And that is something that happens in family structures that keep people down. And we need to look at it like she can do this and that she is doing it, instead of just standing on the sidelines going, and now what if this happens and that happens, and all this fear and worry, because you're creating an atmosphere that isn't going to promote success. I mean, people that have mental health issues can be wonderful parents. People who have been addicts can be wonderful parents, as long as they're not using and they're taking their medicine if it's been prescribed. Mental health, co-occurring, disorders, substance abuse and mental health disorders. These people are very sensitive, loving people generally. It's one of the reasons they turn to drugs and alcohol, because they are a little overly sensitive. So you can't just continue to say negative things about a person who's really trying to change and to be the best that she can be.
Well, on that note, Your Honor, I do think Jen can be compliant when she is on her medication, but we haven't had experience with her in the last year and a half because she hasn't had the kids. We haven't been able...
But he needs to put his foot in the water.
Well,
And
right,
I made
but
an order
what I'm
last
saying
time
is
that it should start.
We haven't been able to see if she is really improved because she hasn't been around the kids.
But that's why I made an order.
And Your Honor, too, just to refresh the court's memory, I mean, this is a person who's thrown 2 children into a mental institution without having the legal recourse to do so, one of them being, an 11-year-old boy who had no idea why he was being put in there. So I know you can appreciate the sensitivity of the matter. I'm fully supportive if she can be a good co-parent, but she just can't take and run things and not communicate. And she's
Dad,
wrong.
I can't believe you're still talking about that.
She's wrong about the schedule also, Your Honor. The kids get out at 2:11. They don't leave the school until 2:25 with my wife. They cannot make it across town for a 3 o'clock appointment. I would love to...
It's on your side of town.
But they go to school in Summerlin with my wife, Your Honor.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She took nothing into account as far as that goes.
There was only one therapist on the list that would do it.
But communicate a
What's
time.
the earliest that you could have an appointment?
I would suggest a 4 o'clock appointment, Your Honor, would probably be the best time. That way they can get home. We have an infant that we have to pick up from daycare. My wife picks her up. and then she can, then we can work that out as far as scheduling goes. And I don't think that would have any conflicts with his sports scheduling as well. It had been simply communicated with me and back and forth, but it wasn't.
Okay, so, and remind me why Nick Ponzo can't help with this again?
We were suggesting somebody more on the eastern side of town because of where the boys will both be going to school next year.
Yep.
And
But
that's
how about if the kids go to school in Summerlin? Couldn't the appointment be in Summerlin?
Isn't Nick Ponzo over there?
Your Honor, there's a blended family here. We have an
Oh,
infant
my
that goes
God.
to school. This has all been communicated.
Unbelievable to me.
Your Honor, we discussed the travel last time that we were here. We don't. It's coming across that my client is being defiant. He's really not. He's trying to take his family matters into consideration, and we already had the discussion that someone on the east side would be best. Jennifer agreed, and the only thing we've done here today, Your Honor, is relay what Marcia told my client. So I don't know why it seems like the court is dissatisfied with Mr. Dodds.
So is the order now that any appointment with Marcia Lee after 4 p.m. is acceptable? Or I mean, is
If
that
she's willing to do it. If not, I would say go to Nick.
okay?
And I will give you an order. Because he's on the side of town that their school's on. So they're over there, and if they can be made right after school, then use him. He already knows the kids, and honestly, I will write the order out. And he will be able to do it quickly.
Is there a day of the week that is inconvenient for the plaintiff?
That's a good question.
Your Honor.
What days are not good days?
In regards to Nick Ponzo, though,
Regarding
Nixon
the-
will be starting high school in August in Henderson.
This will be done in about 2 months if it just gets started. Be done. Reunification doesn't take that long, especially for kids that are not hampered or fraught with the resistance of the other parent. That is the problem, generally. Or a kid that's older and just will not, is recalcitrant and does not want to relent. But we're going to work on that, and we can't find out what the status is until we can get them before a therapist. I have so many cases on today, and every time I see you guys, I feel like I'm trying to make progress, and for some reason I see you again, and it just, I don't know why it's like this. I don't. The only thing I can think of is Dad is not willing to move forward. If he wanted this to take place, he could have jumped on board and said, okay, let's do it. So let's do it. It's going to be Nick Ponzo if it's not Marcia Lee. And I want a session this week. Today's Tuesday. There should be able to be one. So please get that done, and I will have another status check.
And then, Judge, and we're going to bring the other child as well, so the therapist can act as the supervisor for that child?
That would be fine. And if Ethan feels fine being with Mom without a supervisor, then Mom can start her time the way I described it without a supervisor.
Mondays and Wednesdays work best for my client and his kids.
For therapy. And if it's on the west side of town, it can be earlier, right? It can be like 3 o'clock. If it's in Summerlin.
Sure, Your Honor, I don't know anymore, so I'm sorry.
And at 4 o'clock if it's on the other side of town.
Well, can you make that work?
All right.
No, because we
So,
have to
Judge,
pick
just
up
so
an
there's no
infant.
confusion, and I don't want to try to violate the sole legal custody that plaintiff has, my client is going to leave here, and she is going to make an appointment for this week after 4 p.m. with Marcia Lee. Hopefully it's tomorrow, because Wednesday works best for the plaintiff. Is there any confusion from anybody with that?
Why does he have to have sole legal custody still? What would
Your
be
Honor.
the basis of that?
I think this court is getting frustrated, and we're not remembering all the history of this case. My client has full legal custody for good reason, because Mom goes into doctor's offices and tells them something that's not true, because Mom goes into school administration, tells them something that's not true. This is all based on
There are many ways of causing problems, and these kids need to get back together with both of their parents. We have her under supervision of a therapist. She's going to do that for the rest of her life. That's not going to change. Bottom line, Dad does not need to continue to make all of the decisions on behalf of these kids. There's no reason why they can't make them together.
Well, Your Honor put that order into place for good reason.
But she's doing better now.
She's doing better, but she hasn't been around the kids for us to come to court and say, this happened again, Your Honor.
Well, if I see you guys again and things have not happened, and I hear about any comments about how Dad is not taking the child, or, he's got all the power kind of comments, then I will put her back into a joint legal position.
Okay, then I would respectfully request, Your Honor, that we not use Nick Ponzo simply because my client cannot get there.
What do you mean?
Because he has the other kid in daycare they are picking up. So they are coming out to the east side anyway.
Why can't his wife pick that child up?
She does, Your Honor, but I work in the central part of town. I mean, what if Marcia Lee is this person who's going to do it, why would we go there then?
Let's stick with the logic about if it's going to be Nick Ponzo, because if Marcia says she can't do it, we're going to come back and there'll have been nothing done. So I'm giving you a backup plan.
Right.
So if your wife can pick up the baby, you can go to Nick, correct?
But okay.
Is that question too hard for you?
No, I understand what you're saying, yes, Your Honor, but then you have Ethan who has gymnastics at 4:30 in Henderson. You have all these different balances that have to go.
You said Monday and Wednesday are good.
Right, Monday and Wednesday would work, that's fine. If
They
you
don't
want to do
have
Nick,
gymnastics then,
he
right?
does not have gymnastics
And
that
then,
day.
and
That's
there's not a problem.
And so we'll be done by the time August rolls around is what we think Mr. Ponzo will be done by then. I guess, is that...
I'm saying
And just so I'm clear, Judge.
first
again,
try
as far as
Marshall Lee, Dad.
And if she doesn't work, as far as a time for Ponzo, Your Honor said that he can get the child there earlier, the children there earlier. Maybe not. Is 4 o'clock good as well, or just
3
one?
o'clock.
3 o'clock, if it's Ponzo. Okay.
Well, is my client helping make
Or
these
3:30.
appointments?
Or 3:30. Yeah, before you make a solid appointment, Mom, you need to text Dad, and Dad needs to respond ASAP so that Mom can work with the receptionist or whoever it is in the office.
Unless it's tomorrow at 3 with Marcia Lee, because we've already all clarified that tomorrow at 3 with Marcia Lee is good. So if my client sends Dad an email or a text later today that says the appointment is tomorrow at 3 with Marcia Lee,
Well, if the kids can be there tomorrow at 3 and your wife can pick up the baby, then I think you can make that one
I'm
appointment.
sorry, tomorrow at 4.
4.
4.
Or
with,
4.
With Marcia
Okay.
Lee.
So tomorrow at 4. You already changed it to 4?
It's 4 with Lee because she's on that side of town. It'd be 3 with Ponzo.
Okay.
We've got it.
And Your Honor,
What's the return date?
may we not do texting in Our Family Wizard since that's what we've been used to?
Our family wizards.
I'm talking about something that has to be done immediately, and I want a record of it, not a phone call. So if you want to send an email and a text, that would be fine.
And we're putting the child support and health insurance arrearages into this order, Your Honor?
Well, my understanding is there's some offsets, so council to work out the offsets
We don't have those worked out. by
and
the
then
next-
do a consent judgment.
That's fine.
Do one consent judgment for both of them. And then the DA, you have a DA case on this, right?
Yes, Judge.
Yes.
They can get that judgment and work it into what they're doing. I'm very scared to say this, but I'd like it in 3 months, and I want council to let me know. I need an earlier date if there are any snags in this process. If you're going to go to Nick Ponzo, I want council to let me know ASAP so I can write an order. If council wants a telephonic conference, let me know. I will get that on ASAP.
Thank you, Judge.
Because I need this process to take place.
Okay, June 6th at 10:30 a.m.
Reunification is notoriously, in most cases, like dominoes. Kids are very open and resilient and forgiving, generally. And once they get past the initial barrier and their feelings just start flooding in and they want to be back there, unless there's alienation or, that could be on either side, or if there's been a lot of abuse or, I don't know. all the reasons. I can't list them all, but generally, most kids, and I'm talking about probably 80%, are not willing to go to all these meetings. They're willing to start seeing the other parent right away. So I expect that with Ethan in this case, from what you guys have told me. I don't know about Nixon, but I want this to take place. I want a meeting this week, if at all possible. And I will see you guys in June, or I will hear from you guys before that if there are any delays for any reason, or if you need an order.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right.